Close your eyes for a second and picture this. An abandoned railroad tunnel, carved into the side of a jagged hill, tucked away on the outskirts of a sleepy American town, somewhere like rural Ohio or West Virginia, where time seems to have stopped. It's been there since the late 1800s, a relic of the industrial boom when steam trains hauled coal and timber across the heartland. The tunnel's mouth yawns wide, framed by crumbling stone arches stained black with soot and moss. Inside, it's a void, hundreds of yards of damp, suffocating darkness that swallows light and sound. Once a lifeline for workers and freight, it's now a forgotten husk. But that's not the whole story. This isn't just a tunnel, it's a tomb, and locals will tell you it's very much alive. The tragedy hit in 1897, or so the faded newspapers claim. A crew of workers, mostly Irish immigrants fresh off the boats, were digging deeper into the hill to widen the passage. They were tough men, used to back-breaking labor and the constant threat of cave-ins. But that night, something went wrong, horribly wrong. A sudden rumble shook the earth, and the tunnel's roof caved in, burying over 30 men under tons of rock and splintered timber. The rescuers tried to dig them out, clawing at the debris for days, but the deeper they went, the worse it got. Tools broke, lanterns flickered out, and a few swore they heard faint cries from beneath the rubble, even after hope was lost. In the end, they gave up. The company sealed the tunnel, wrote it off as a loss, and moved on. The workers left where they fell. Fast forward to today. The tunnel's still there, rotting in the shadow of overgrown pines and kudzu vines. The tracks are long gone, rusted away or stolen for scrap, but the stories, they've only grown darker. If you visit at night, say around midnight, when the air turns thick with fog, you'll hear it. Whispers drifting out from the blackness. At first you'll brush it off as the wind whistling through the hollowed-out shell. But listen closer. The whispers form words. Get out, get out. It's not a suggestion. It's a warning. Those who've dared to step inside talk about shadows, vague, human-like shapes that hover just beyond the reach of a flashlight's beam. You turn to look, and they're gone. Blink again, and they're closer. Take Mark Hensley, a local urban explorer with a YouTube channel and a taste for the macabre. 2 summers ago, he decided to test the legend. Armed with a GoPro, a handheld mic, and a backpack full of bravado, he trekked out to the tunnel at dusk. His plan: spent an hour inside, recording every creak and echo. He live-streamed it, too. Hundreds of viewers watched as he crossed the threshold, his flashlight cutting a thin path through the gloom. For the first 20 minutes, it was quiet. Too quiet. Then his mic picked up something, a low, raspy murmur, like someone muttering under their breath. "You shouldn't be here," it said. Mark laughed it off, chalking it up to his imagination. But then his flashlight started flickering. The chat exploded with comments. "Did you hear that? Something moved behind you." At the 40-minute mark, the stream cut out. When Mark stumbled back into town an hour later, he was shaking, his face drained of color. He uploaded the raw audio later, a voice clear as day, repeating that same phrase over a chorus of faint, overlapping whispers. He swears he felt a hand brush his shoulder in the dark, though he was alone, or so he thought. The locals have their own tales. Old-timers at the diner down the road, think greasy coffee and cracked vinyl booths, say the tunnel's cursed. They'll tell you about Jimmy Ray, a mechanic who went in on a dare back in the 80s. He came out babbling about men with no faces watching him from the walls. His truck wouldn't start for a week after, and he never set foot near the place again. Then there's Sarah, a high schooler who snuck in with friends last Halloween. She says her phone died the second they crossed the entrance, and when she turned to leave, something yanked her jacket hard enough to rip the sleeve. Her friends didn't see a thing, just her, screaming and clawing at the air. The next day she found scratches on her arm she couldn't explain. What is it about this place that keeps people coming back? The thrill, sure. There's nothing like the adrenaline of staring into the unknown and living to tell the tale. But it's more than that. Psychologists call it a liminal space. A spot stuck between worlds, where the rules of reality bend. You feel it the moment you get close. The air grows heavy, your chest tightens, and every sound feels amplified. The drip of water, the crunch of gravel, your own ragged breathing. Real accounts fuel the fire. Flashlights dying despite fresh batteries. Cameras glitching with static that resolves into garbled voices. Even boot prints appearing in the dust where no one's walked. One guy, a paranormal investigator from Cleveland, set up motion sensors inside. They went off all night, dozens of triggers, but his thermal cam showed nothing but cold, empty space. Theories swirl like the fog that cloaks the hill. Some say the workers' souls are trapped, bound to the tunnel by rage or unfinished business. Others think it's something older, something the miners woke up when they dug too deep, a presence that feeds on fear and curiosity. The town's historical society dug up an old journal from 1898, written by a preacher who blessed the site after the collapse. He claimed the ground felt wrong, like it was holding its breath. He heard the whispers, too, even back then. Now imagine yourself there. It's late, the moon's a sliver overhead, and you're standing at the tunnel's edge. Cold air seeps out, carrying that damp, earthy smell mixed with something sour, like decay. You take a step inside, and the world behind you fades. Your flashlight sputters, casting jagged shadows on the walls. Something scrapes in the distance. Metal on stone, maybe, or claws. Your name floats through the dark, whispered by a dozen voices at once. You spin around, but the entrance feels miles away. Do you keep going, chasing the truth? Or do you run, knowing whatever's in there doesn't want you to leave? The choice is yours. Just don't expect the tunnel to let you go easy. It's been waiting a long time for someone new to claim.
Imagine driving down a lonely stretch of highway cutting through the American Midwest. Say, a forgotten back road in Illinois or Missouri, where the fields roll endless under a bruised, storm-heavy sky. It's late, well past midnight, and rain hammers your car with a fury that drowns out everything else, turning the world beyond your headlights into a blurry smear of gray, black, and fleeting shadows. The bode's narrow, flanked by swaying corn stalks and the occasional crooked fence weathered by years of neglect. Your radio crackles with static, voices fading in and out like ghosts trying to break through, so you flip it off with a sigh. Now it's just you, the drumbeat of water on a roof, and the relentless squeak of wipers struggling to keep up. The isolation sinks in. Miles from the nearest town, no other cars, no lights, just the endless ribbon of asphalt stretching into the dark. Up ahead, through the sheets of rain, you spot a figure standing motionless on the shoulder, a lone hitchhiker, thumb raised, coat soaked through and clinging to their frame. Something about it feels off, but it's too late to second guess. You slow down, tires hissing on the wet pavement, and pull over to the side. The passenger door creaks open with a groan, and a young woman slides into the back seat, bringing the cold with her. She's pale as moonlight, her dark hair plastered to her face, dripping water onto the worn upholstery. "Thanks," she mutters, her voice barely a whisper, hoarse and distant, like it's coming from somewhere far away. She gives you an address, a house just a few miles up the road, and settles back, hands folded in her lap. You nod, pull onto the highway again, and steal a glance in the rearview mirror. Her eyes meet yours for a fleeting second, hollow, tired, almost pleading. Then she turns away, staring blankly out the window into the storm, her fingers twitching faintly as if tracing something unseen. The silence stretches, heavy and thick, broken only by the rain's roar against the roof. You try to focus on the road, but her presence gnaws at you. The address she gave isn't far, an old farmhouse off a gravel turnoff, the kind with peeling paint, a sagging porch, and windows dark as empty sockets. You've passed it before, maybe, on brighter days, but tonight it feels like a destination you never meant to find. "What's your name?" you ask, voice cutting through the quiet. No answer. "Where'd you come from out here?" Nothing. Just that stillness, her silhouette rigid against the seat. The radio's off, but a faint hum creeps into your ears like static fighting to surface, a buzz that doesn't belong. You shake it off, grip the wheel tighter. A few minutes later, you glance back to check on her, expecting that pale face in the mirror. The seat's empty. No coat, no water stains, no sign she was ever there, not a single drop on the fabric. Your heart lurches, and you slam on the brakes, tires skidding wildly on the slick road. The car jolts to a stop, headlights slicing through the rain. You twist around, eyes darting. The windows are shut tight, the doors still locked from the inside. You're alone again, just you and the storm. A cold chill crawling up your spine like icy fingers. Your breath fogs in the sudden quiet, and for a moment you think you hear that hum again, louder, sharper, then gone. This is the legend of the Vanishing Hitchhiker, a story as old as the highways that snake across the country, whispered in truck stops and diners from coast to coast. In some tellings, she's a young woman who died in a fiery crash decades back. Her car spinning off the road in a storm like this one, still trying to make it home to a family that's long forgotten her. In others, it's an old man lost in a blizzard, his coat dusted with snow instead of rain, or a soldier in faded fatigues, thumbing rides after a war that ended before your grandparents were born. The details shift, but the ending never does. They climb in, give you a place to take them, a house, a diner, a crossroads, then disappear without a trace, leaving nothing but questions and a lingering unease. Drivers across the years swear it's no mere tale. Take Tom Riley, a grizzled trucker out of Springfield, Illinois, who picked up a girl in a white dress one stormy night back in '98. She climbed into his rig on a stretch of Route 66, her voice soft as she asked for a lift to an old diner a few miles west, a place he knew had burned to the ground years before, leaving only a charred skeleton of beams and ash. He drove her there anyway, figuring she'd explain. When they arrived, he pulled into the empty lot, turned to say they'd made it, and found her gone. No footsteps in the mud, no sign she'd opened the door. Later, back at the truck stop, he found a damp scarf coiled on the passenger seat, smelling of wet earth and something sour, like it'd been buried too long. He tossed it out the window and swore off that route for good, his hand shaking as he told the story over black coffee to anyone who'd listen. Then there's Jenny Carter, a college kid driving home from St. Louis in the fall of 2015. She was cutting through rural Missouri, windshield fogging in the drizzle, when she spotted a guy on the roadside, his jacket soaked, face shadowed under a hood pulled low. He flagged her down, climbed in without a word, and gave an address, a trailer park 10 miles out, down a road she'd never taken. He sat in the back, silent as death, his breath barely misting the air. She felt it right away, that prickling unease like eyes boring into her neck. She kept checking the mirror, but he just stared ahead, hands resting limp on his knees. Halfway there, she glanced again. He was gone. No sound, no rustle, just an empty seat staring back. Her car started knocking that night, a rhythmic tap, tap, tap against the windows like something followed her home. She sold it a week later, said it felt wrong ever since, like the air inside had turned stale and heavy. And those are just the start. Tales stack up like mile markers, cars stalling on moonless nights, radios spitting garbled voices where no stations reach, drivers swearing they catch their passenger's face in the rearview mirror weeks later, pale and unblinking, watching from the dark. What keeps this legend alive? It's the loneliness of the road, that bone-deep isolation where every shadow could hide a threat, where you're out there with no one to hear you scream. Psychologists weigh in, saying it taps into our primal fear of the unknown. Picking up a stranger is a gamble, a roll of the dice on who they are, what they might want from you. Add a layer of the supernatural, and it's a hook that digs into your gut and twists. Some call it a ghost's last plea for closure, a restless spirit caught in a loop, hitching rides to nowhere. Others argue it's a trick of the mind, stress and fatigue, conjuring phantoms from the rain and dark. But the stories don't stop. There's the cabbie in Kansas, summer of '09, who picked up a kid in a hoodie near Wichita, dropped him at a gas station only to find the back seat empty and laughter echoing from nowhere as he pulled away. Or the single mom outside Omaha, 17, who stopped for a woman in a shawl, soaked through. She drove her to a church a mile off, turned to ask if she was okay, and saw nothing but a wet handprint smeared on the window, still there the next morning, refusing to wash off in the rain. The vanishing hitchhiker preys on kindness, on that split-second choice to stop instead of speeding past, and leaves you wondering what you let into your car, your life, your nightmares. Now picture yourself behind the wheel on a night like this. Rain pounds harder, relentless, the road stretching into an abyss of black. Your headlights catch that figure again, standing still as stone, thumb up, waiting patiently through the deluge. You slow down, tires hydroplaning a heartbeat, and hesitate, fingers hovering over the lock. The knock comes, soft at first, then sharper, insistent, cutting through the storm's roar. Your pulse quickens, a drumbeat in your throat. Do you crack the door open, risking whatever steps inside, or keep driving, accelerator floored, knowing that chill might cling to you anyway, a passenger you can't outrun? The choice is yours, but on these forsaken roads, some travelers don't leave easy, and some never leave at all. Picture a dense forest tucked away in the American South. Say, the backwoods of Tennessee or Alabama, where the trees grow tall and gnarled, their branches twisting into a canopy so thick it swallows the sun whole. It's dusk, that fleeting hour when the sky bleeds orange and purple and shadows stretch long across the mossy earth. The air's heavy here, thick with the scent of pine, damp soil, and something older, something that clings to your lungs like a memory you can't place. Locals call it the Whispering Woods, a sprawling stretch of wilderness where the trails wind tight and the undergrowth grabs at your boots like greedy hands. Most folks steer clear, their grandmother's warnings ringing in their ears. Don't go in after dark, don't stray from the path, don't listen to the voices. But there's always someone, a hiker, a hunter, a kid chasing a dare, who ignores the tales and steps past the rusted no trespassing sign swinging on its post, half buried in vines. They don't come back the same, if they come back at all. The story starts in 1953, or so the yellowed clippings in the county library say. A group of loggers, 6 men with axes and saws, ventured deep into the woods to clear a patch for a new road. They were tough, used to long days and hard labor, their laughter cutting through the stillness as they felled trees and hauled timber. By noon, the air shifted, colder, sharper, like a storm brewing without clouds. One man, Earl Grayson, noticed it first. A low murmur weaving through the branches, too faint to catch, but too steady to ignore. He brushed it off as wind, kept swinging his axe. By dusk, the whispers grew clearer, words, names, fragments of sentences tumbling over each other like a crowd talking at once. The crew stopped, tools clattering to the ground, their breaths fogging in the sudden chill. "Who's there?" Earl called, voice cracking. No answer, just that sound, louder now, insistent, threading through the trees like a living thing. They packed up fast, but as night fell, they realized the trail had vanished. No markers, no footprints, just endless woods closing in. Hours later, a search party found Earl alone, stumbling out at dawn, eyes wild, hands scratched raw. The other 5 were gone, no bodies, no gear, just their axes sunk deep into tree trunks, sap bleeding red like blood. Earl wouldn't talk, not really, just muttered about voices that knew his sins until he drank himself quiet a year later. That's when the whispers took root in the legend. Step into the Whispering Woods at night, and you'll hear them. Soft at first, a rustle in the leaves, a sigh on the wind. Stay too long, and they sharpen your name, your secrets, things you've buried deep, spoken in voices that aren't quite human. Hunters say their dogs bolt at the edge, hackles up, whining like they smell death. Campers wake to footsteps circling their tents, only to find the ground untouched come morning. In 1979, a ranger named Clara Holt went in to map a new trail, her walkie-talkie buzzing with static as she logged her progress. "It's quiet here," she radioed at 6 p.m., voice steady. By 8, her tone changed. "Something's talking. Can't make it out." At 10, her last transmission cut through the hiss. "They know me. They won't stop." She didn't answer after that. They found her pack 3 days later, slung high in a tree, her notebook inside scribbled with one word over and over: "Listen." Clara never came back, and her walkie-talkie, recovered months later, played nothing but whispers when they tested it. Dozens of voices overlapping, calling her name in the static. The stories stack up like fallen leaves. In 1996, a trio of teens, Jake, Sarah, and Mike snuck in on a dare. Armed with flashlights and a cheap camcorder, they planned to film a spooky night for kicks, laughing. What's in those woods? Some say it's the loggers, trapped where they fell, their souls bound to the trees they cut, angry at anyone who dares intrude. Others point to older tales, Cherokee legends of spirits guarding sacred ground, voices that lure the lost to their doom. A professor from Knoxville, Dr. Ellis Reed, studied it in 2004, camping out with audio gear and a team. They recorded hours of whispers, words in English, snatches of old dialects, even names of the team, despite no one else being there. It's not natural, Reed wrote in his report. Something aware, something that adapts. His gear failed by day 2, batteries drained, and one student quit mid-trip, saying she heard her dead brother begging her to stay. Reed left with more questions than answers, calling it a sentient anomaly that defies science. Skeptics scoff, blaming wind or overactive imaginations. But the tapes, archived online, chill anyone who listens. Voices that shift pitch, weave your name into the mix, and stop when you pause, like they're waiting. Why do people keep going in? It's the pull of the unknown, that itch to test the stories against your own nerve. The whispering woods don't just scare, they beckon, promising answers if you're brave enough to hear them out. Locals avoid it, but outsiders, hikers, ghost hunters, thrill seekers trickle through every year. Most come out rattled, swearing off the place. A few don't come out at all. In 2018, a vlogger, Sam Torres, went live from the edge, his drone buzzing overhead. "Gonna find the truth," he grinned, stepping past the sign. The stream lasted an hour, rustling leaves, his bravado fading, then whispers cutting through. "Sam, stay with us." The drone caught him bolting, tripping over roots before the feed died. Searchers found his camera, lens cracked, audio looping his name in a dozen tones. Sam's still missing, his last post pinned online. "Don't go in. Now imagine you're there. Dusk falls, the forest looming ahead, trees swaying in a wind you barely feel. You step past the sign, leaves crunching underfoot. The air thickens, a murmur brushing your ears, soft, curious, calling your name. Your flashlight